We'll discuss tonight the topic of whether one has to endanger one's own life to save another person. In other words, obviously we know there's a prohibition of suicide in the Torah. One is not permitted to take one's own life. So taking your own life is out of the question. The question is, you going to do something that might put yourself in doubtful danger. You don't know, it may or may not happen. But you know if you don't do anything, the other person is going to die. So are you obligated to have an effort to go save the person? In other words, risking your own life to save someone else. So the Kesef Mishnah quotes from Hagos Maimon, quotes from the Yerushalmi, that says that one has an obligation to risk one's own life to save someone else. And why is that? Because it says the one who is risking his life is only a suffix, is only in doubt. And if you go in, it's only doubtful danger. But if you don't go in, that person's definitely going to die. So therefore, they borrow a Dine Mamanos term, Ein Safek Motzi Midei Vadai. If one person's in doubt, then one person's definite, a doubt can't be out of definite. So the person's in definite danger, so you have an obligation to go ahead and save that person. That's the Yerushalmi. The question is, where is this Yerushalmi? So, Rav Chaim Heller, who was, he taught at Yeshiva University a while back, and he was actually different than the classical Rosh Yeshiva. He was actually teaching in the graduate school, Bernard Revel. He might have given Chiarosa, I'm not sure exactly, but he had connections with Rav Soloveitchik, I think from the Berlin days, and Rav Soloveitchik used to speak to him about different issues. So he claims that there's a lot of lost Yerushalmis, that we see the poskim, because I'll give a bunch of examples, that the poskim quote a Yerushalmi, but we don't know where they are today. So he says we believe they're there because the poskim quote it, but he says we don't have it anymore. That's what he claims. Others claim they found the Yerushalmi. I know where the Yerushalmi is. So what is the Yerushalmi? Many Achronim claim is this Yerushalmi, and it's Siv and others. There's a Yerushalmi in Trumas on Periches, a famous story. The story goes, Rabbi Imi, who was a big Talmud Chacham, he was taken captive by the Gentiles, and apparently it wasn't even a ransom. Apparently they were just going to kill him. So there was a discussion between two rabbis, Rav Yonasan and Rav Shimon ben Lakish. Rav Yonasan said, what am I going to do? He's in danger. Bring out the tachrichim, bring out the shrouds. That's it, I can't help him. I guess he's going to die, we'll have to bury him. And Rav Lakish says that Rav Lakish had a previous career. He was a highway robber. So he said, you know what, I'll just go into my closet, go into the garage, get my machine gun, dust it out, get the bullets ready, and we'll go and either we're both going to make it out or we're both going to be killed. I think the conclusion is anticlimactic. I think what was probably positive is he actually went down and he was actually to appease them and he got them out and that was it. But the Yerushalmi says, based on Reish Lakish, that apparently based on Reish Lakish, that we see from Reish Lakish that he felt there was an obligation for him to go down to risk his life to save Rav Imi. So that's again, according to Rav Heller, we're not even sure if we even have the Yerushalmi. According to others, this is the Yerushalmi. That's with the story with Rav Imi. So assuming this is the Yerushalmi, it's a little difficult. There are a couple questions. Number one is, who said, first of all, in the Yerushalmi, it's a machlokes, Rav Yonasan and Reish Lakish. Who says in a machlokes, Rav Yonasan and Reish Lakish, we paskin like Reish Lakish, maybe we paskin like Rav Yonasan. So we said it's a machlokes, so number one is, who says even if the Yerushalmi, it's a machlokes in the Yerushalmi. So maybe we follow the opinion of Rav Yonasan. That's one question. You can close that door if you want in that room. That's one question is, Who says we follow Rabbi Yonasan? I mean, who says we follow Rish Lakish? Oh, this goes, okay. So question number 2 is, even if we assume this is the Yerushalmi, but who says anyway that if we learn from here there's an obligation? All we know is Rish Lakish went in and did it. He went and he told him to take the machine gun and to go in and do it. So maybe Rish Lakish agrees also, there's no obligation to do it. Maybe he felt he was doing something extra, a midas chasidus. It was a mitzvah, like we have we have the concept that sometimes, let's say, mitzvah of tzitzis. There's a commandment, if you're wearing a 4-corner garment, you have to put tzitzis on it. But strictly speaking, if I'm not wearing a 4-corner garment, I don't have to. But if everyone agrees, if I put on a 4-corner garment, I put tzitzis on, I get a mitzvah. Or like Rav Moshe says about perhaps today Eretz Yisrael, that there's a discussion whether there's an obligation to live in Israel or not. So Rav Moshe writes, he thinks his opinion is today there's no obligation to live there. However, anyone who does live there certainly gets a mitzvah. So too here. The fact that Rish Lakish actually went out and did it doesn't mean he's saying that he's not making a category and he's passing it. He on his own, maybe perhaps he on his own went to go. So therefore, that's the second kasha. Who says you could prove from the Yerushalmi a general principle that everyone's obligated? Just the fact that Rish Lakish did it doesn't mean you're obligated. He could have done a mitzvah if Nimashur said in.
But does that show then that there's no negative commandment against doing that?
Right, no, it's a good point. So what we can learn out from according to Rish Lakish, is minimally we can learn out it's not usher to do. Right, we'll get to that. But because maybe you could argue, as we'll see, maybe you're not allowed to risk your life. But we can prove from Rish Lakish minimally you're allowed to. You can't, and obviously it's not usher according to him. That's clear. But it doesn't show it's a chiyuv, right? But it does show that you have the option at least, right? And thirdly, maybe it was different here. Rabbi Imi was a big Torah scholar. So there's Sefer HaChasidim, others point out, it's a whole different discussion. But normally, we assume, all lives are equal. Let's say if someone puts a gun to your head and says, either kill X or I'm going to kill you, so the halacha is, Yaro v'ayav, you have to give up your life for it, because who says your life is more valuable? So normally, we'll get into this more another time, but we assume as a general rule that life, someone else's life is equal value. However, there are certain orders of kadima. So perhaps the question of maybe if it's a majority versus a minority. Again, if you're going all things being equal, it's the same, but then you could find cases where we could discuss it more, majority, minority. And one of them is, so the Sefer Chassidim is a Talmud Chacham, not only a Talmud Chacham, but a leader of the generation, perhaps someone that Tzibor needs, has a din of a rabbim. As Rabbi Yisrael Salanter used to say during Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you should be a Yachid Shaharabim Talaba. You should be an individual where many people are dependent on you. And therefore, because the Sotir, Talmud Chacham has a din of a rabbim, so perhaps one could argue, we see that if you have a chance to save a community, so then you're obligated to risk it, which is a discussion also. But we see from here that you could risk your life to save a rabbim. A Talmud Chacham has a din of a rabbim. But this to risk your own life to save one other person, maybe that's no proof. So we have 3 reasons why. Number one is we're not sure if this is the Yerushalmi. Maybe that's why Rav Hela said this wasn't the Yerushalmi, because he didn't find it compelling. But either if you assume this is the Yerushalmi, number one is who says we pass in like Rish Lakish. Secondly, maybe it's just a mitzvah but not an obligation. And thirdly, Rav Imi was a Talmud Chacham, so he had a din of a rabbim. And maybe that's a totally different question. So therefore, but either way, that's the Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi says, let's assume it as a given. Your geometry days, the givens, and that's it. We'll assume the Yerushalmi says that one has an obligation to risk one's life to save someone else. So let's assume that's true. So the Sma, other Achronim point out that it's interesting to note that the Rambam, the Rush, the Rif, do not quote this. All the pillars of halacha do not quote this halacha about risking one's life to save someone else. And in fact, the Beis Yosef, that's Rav Yosef Cairo, he wrote the Beis Yosef on the Torah. And then we know the Shulchan Aruch, that's also Rav Yosef Cairo. So he quotes this halacha in the Beis Yosef, he quotes the Yerushalmi about risking one's life. But when it comes to writing the Shulchan Aruch, he doesn't write it. So some want to say from what we see from here, from the fact he left it out of the Shulchan Aruch, shows we don't pass like this. The Yerushalmi exists, but we don't pass like this Yerushalmi. So is that so simple that the fact that he wrote it only in the Beis Yosef and not in the Machaber that we don't pass him that way? That's far from simple, because some point out, in fact, why did he write the Shulchan Aruch? So he himself tells us why. He tells us why did he write the Shulchan Aruch? If he wrote the Beis Yosef, why did he need the Shulchan Aruch? The Beis Yosef has everything. He said, you know what? For a Talmud Chacham who wants to chazer every 30 days, the Beis Yosef's too long. But the Shulchan Aruch, 30 days, you can knock it off in 30 days. That's why he wrote the Shulchan Aruch. Or he says, for little kids it's too hard for them to learn. But for the little kids, let them look at the Shulchan Aruch. But if you really want to know what I'm thinking, it appears you have to know what it says in the Beis Yosef. So if that's true, then you can't bring me any proof that the fact that he wrote it in the Beis Yosef and not the Machaber, that you don't pass it that way. But either way, but that's questionable. But the poskim say that. So let's again, the Yerushalmi, let's make two assumptions that this is the Yerushalmi, and we can bring a proof from this Yerushalmi, which is you're an obligation, and we'll assume that the fact that he didn't quote in the Shulchan Aruch also proves our point that we don't pass him like this Yerushalmi. Let's assume.
So in the Beit Yosef, he quotes this
Yerushalmi about one.
He said that that's the halacha.
Well, whether it's not black. He quotes it as we'll see. He quotes it as part of it. As the halacha. We'll see. We have to go through exactly what he said in there, but he seems to bring it down as he didn't reject it. Mm-hmm. I'll get to that point right. It's a good question. I'll get to that right now. So assuming it's the Yerushalmi, and the Yerushalmi says it, and we don't pass it that way, but even if we have a Yerushalmi, we don't usually negate in Yerushalmis. We have a general rule, in a dispute between a Yerushalmi and a Bavli, we go with the Bavli, because we assume the Bavli came afterwards and incorporated everything from the Yerushalmi. So the question is, do we have, so that Gudas Ezov says, one of the poskim, we have, why we don't pass it like the Yerushalmi? Because we have a Bavli against it. But of course he doesn't tell us where this Bavli is. So let's go search through Shas and see if we can find this Bavli. So fortunate, we have some great Achronim who know Shas very well, and they do the research for us, and they give us a couple of possibilities. So first they start, so someone would say, maybe I found the Gemara against the Yerushalmi from the Bavli, the Gemara in Nida. The Gemara in Nida says, it discusses the case of Lashon Hara, about the biblical prohibition of evil gossip, etc. However, it says, don't be a fool, you can't be naive. Don't accept Lashon Hara, but don't ignore it either. In other words, what do I mean, don't ignore it? In other words, if there's a rumor out that this person's a crook, he's a thief, and you put up and you're looking for someone to work behind the cash register, don't say, well, I don't makabel Lashon Hara. No, you shouldn't rule him out, but you should check into it. And then obviously if you check into it and he's fine, then it's okay to hire him. But don't be a fool and let someone who's a known robber in your house and leave him there. In other words, don't be naive, but we just don't accept it. So in general, we don't accept Lashon Hara, but we are concerned. We want to concerned that we have to check into it to see if it's valid. So there was a rumor out, the B'nai Galila, these people, there was a rumor out that they murdered people, they murdered someone, or they did something bad, and the government, the authorities were looking for them. So they went running to Rabbi Tarfon and said, hide us, the authorities are looking for us. Could you hide us? So Rabbi Tarfon said, if I don't hide you, then you'll probably be killed. But if I do hide you, so then different interpretations what exactly the Gemara is saying, but working with this one. But if I do hide you, then what about me and my family? If they catch us, we'll be killed.
Mm-hmm.
And Rav Tarfon didn't hide them, he sent them away. So some want to bring a proof from this Gemara. We see, why did Rabbi Tarfon want to hide them? Because that's the case where he felt he didn't have to risk his own life. Let's assume there was no wife and kids, even one-on-one, let's assume. He didn't want to risk his own life to save, other people. Some want to bring a proof from there. Others say it's not so compelling. Why? Because maybe he would have, but since maybe he checked into the room and maybe he thought they were murderers and they deserved to be caught, and therefore I don't want murderers in my house. That's why he didn't hide. So therefore, it's a proof or not. For some want to say that's a proof. Others, things I can say it's not very, depending on which interpretation you take. So we need another Gemara. Another Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Gemara talks about, where do we know that someone's drowning in the river or attacked by wild beasts, that you have to go and save them? How do we know that? Because it says, you can't stand by idly while your friend's in danger. So then the Gemara also has another pasuk. It says there's a pasuk of Vahashevosolo, like similar. We have halacha. If someone loses something, you have to return it. So the Gemara says Vahashevosolo, and some say this is the source that the doctor has an obligation to heal a patient. If someone loses the money, you have an obligation to return it. How much more so if someone's losing their life, you have an obligation to restore it. So either way, there's two psukim the Gemara has saying that you can't stand by idly, you have to save someone. So the Gemara says, what do I need both for? Why can't I just have one? It's a discussion, the Rishonim, which one is which, but that's not our issue here. So the Gemara says, if I only had one of them, I would know that if I know how to swim, I have to jump into the ocean. If I know how to use a machine gun, I gotta go in and do it. But how do I know if I don't know how to swim, if I can't do it myself? So I need another pasuk to teach me that I even have to pay someone else. I have to pay a lifeguard. I have to pay someone to save him. So I need one pasuk to teach me that I have to do it myself. But if I can't do it, another pasuk teaches me that I have to pay someone to do it. So the Achronim asked, you could have brought a better, you could have said something even better. What do I need the extra pasuk? Teach me that I know I have the obligation to save one's life, but what? But maybe I need another pasuk to teach me, but what about risking my own life? It's one thing to throw in the round tube into the water and the guy, either you save him or you don't. But to jump in after him, maybe I don't, but to risk my own life, so why didn't the Gemara say, I need the second pasuk to teach me, you have to risk your own life to save someone else. But the Gemara did not give that suggestion, shows that because it's not true, you don't have to risk your own life. And that's why I want to say, this is the Bavli against the Yerushalmi, that one does not have to risk their own life to save someone else. Again, other Achronim say it's not very others don't like it, they say it's not compelling for another reason. They say it's not really a kasha on the Yerushalmi. Some want to say, when does the Yerushalmi say you're obligated to risk your own life? What was the Yerushalmi's language? Ein safek motzi midei vadai. I'm safek, you're vadai, so therefore there has to be a vadai. So either vadai is, again, it's just a statistic vadai, you never have 100% anything, but so either I have to be vadai, I could save you, or I have to be vadai, you're in danger. Like if I don't know if I can save you, I'm not going to jump in the water. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not sure you're in danger, then you're not a vadai in danger either. So maybe the Yerushalmi only says it when it's a vadai. But in the case of Rabbi Tarfon, or here, Rabbi Tarfon, maybe he felt that I don't have to hide you, you can hide yourself. Like, who says, like, why do you have to get me involved? You can find a good hiding spot. You know, you played hide and seek before. I'm saying is, so therefore, someone to say that Gemara is not against Yerushalmi because the way he wasn't a vadai. And similarly here, you don't know what the danger is exactly. So perhaps some want to say it's not so compelling that it's against Yerushalmi. So therefore, Let's try to find a compelling Gemara. So the third Gemara is more compelling. It's the Gemara in Bava Metzia, a famous Gemara about two people stuck in a desert, a midbar, and there's only enough water. So it's very interesting, or at first glance very strange, this, what seems to be strange, dispute in the Mishnah and the Gemara. If you have only enough water, let's say you're 3 days away from civilization, you have enough water for 3 days, but you have a friend there. So if I share the water, we're both going to die because it's only a day and a half. So Rabbi Petira says you should share the water. Better to share the water than to sit there and watch your friend die. You know, Yamusa Shneim while Yira is to not look at your friend dead. And Rabbi Kiva argues and says, no, we have a pasuk, your life takes precedence. So we have a machlokas in the Mishnah, Rabbi Akiva.
What was the source you said? What was
the Chay, it's a pasuk, v'chei achicha v'chei, like live achicha, your brother Imach. We learn out chayecha kodman, your life. In that pasuk, Rabbi Akiva learns out, your life takes precedence over everyone else's. In other words, other people are equal, but your life takes precedence. So you don't have to give up your life for someone else, but anything less than that you do. So let me get to this Gemara. So it doesn't. This Gemara, this mission is very different. What do you mean, Ben Petir? It's a nice slogan for your bumper on your car, but it doesn't make any sense. Better two people, better two people die than one. That makes no sense. Obviously, you shouldn't be looking around, looking at your friend die and being, I think that certain religions, so Jewish religion, the only clear cut of abortion is if the fetus is endangering the mother, so we assume you do an abortion. That's the Jewish religion. In fact, you have an obligation to do that. You have an obligation to kill the fetus to save the mother's life. So other religions say, no, you can't even do an abortion then. Because they say, better 2 deaths than 1 murder. We agree with that in principle. I also agree, better 2 deaths than 1 murder. We did disagree with the application. It isn't murder. That's the halacha. You're mutter to kill a fetus to save a mother's life. That's not murder. But you're right. I agreed. Better 2 deaths. So either way, so what is Rabbi Petira saying? It makes no sense. Better. And also, what's Rabbi Akiva saying? Really, you're right. I agree with you, but what can I do? There's a pasuk that tells me. He doesn't say you're totally illogical. You're nuts. He says, good point, but I have a pasuk telling me if not, in other words, it seems if not for the pasuk, Rabbi Akiva would agree. So what are we missing in this picture? It doesn't make any sense. So the Achronim fill us in, and the Tziv others. Now, so of course, Ben Petir is not saying better 2 deaths than 1. That's ridiculous. But what are we saying here? You have enough water for 3 days, and you have a day and a half. So what he's saying is, so at least you both could live for the next day and a half. A lot could happen in a day and a half. The search committee could find you. Maybe you'll find more water. You find some food. So what Ben Petir is saying, one has an obligation to risk their own, because really you have enough water to make it for sure, in theory. But what Ben Petir is saying is, but if you don't do anything, your friend's definitely going to die. So you have an obligation to risk your own life and share the water, so therefore you could save your friend from death. That's what Ben Petir is telling us. And it's logical that one should risk their own life to save someone else. And Rabbi Akiva agrees in principle. You're right, that makes a lot of sense. But one should risk one's own life, whether you have to or you can, but one has to risk their own life to save someone else, and I would agree with you. But what can I do? The pasuk tells me no. So Rabbi Akiva really agrees in principle, but the pasuk tells me not. So this is the Yerushalmi. This is the Babli against the Yerushalmi. That's this machlokas Ben Petir and Rabbi Akiva. So in other words, in logic we may agree with the Yerushalmi. Maybe it makes sense that if someone's definite going to die, then you should, or you can, whatever, risk your life to save someone else. But what could I do? The pasuk tells me not. The pasuk tells me I can't do it. So It comes out, then we have a machlokas Yerushalmi and Bavli.